Hello again! Welcome back to another episode of the Awakening Film and TV podcast. I am your host, Kristen, and today we will be talking about The Gift, which is a series also known as Atiye. The Gift, it was released the first season in 2019. It's a Turkish TV series. And it blew my mind when I first watched it. I wanted to talk about this show. This is actually the first series that I'm talking about on this podcast. But I wanted to talk about this one because it hit me really, really deep, kind of like how I talked about Another Earth. This show did that same deep thing to me where I was touched and cried, and I felt so inspired as a filmmaker myself to want to make stuff like this. It's that amazingly, inspiringly good. So I can just rave and rave about this show. It was only 3 seasons long. I loved the first season the most. It was immersive, beautifully written, directed, acted. Everything felt like it had love put in it. It was just comforting to watch as well. Yeah. I don't even know how to quite describe it. It's just so immersive. Yeah. And the second and third seasons I did like as well. I did enjoy them, and I felt like it still ended strong, even though it feels like they experimented a bit in seasons 2 and 3 in a way that wasn't quite as solid as season 1, but it's still good. It's based on books, actually, and so just to give you a little brief about it. So it premiered 2019 through 2021. It stars Baron Sat and was written by Jason George and Nuran Evren Seats. It was an adaptation of the novel Dünyanın Uyanışı, The World's Awakening by Sengül Boybas. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that stuff okay. So it does center around this young woman, Atiye, and she's been drawing this certain symbol ever since her childhood. So she's become a professional abstract painter, always with this symbol, and has an exhibition with all her art of this symbol. And she also teaches part-time. So I really like that we're starting off this series with a young woman still finding her place in the world, but she's not like a child. And she's still, it's still mysterious why she is drawing this specific symbol. Why is she so obsessed with that her whole life? She's in a relationship romantically with Ozan, and he's the son of a very wealthy businessman named Serdar, and she's not really happy in the relationship, and her art, though, is doing well. She is becoming successful. So the other lead character they also go into, his name is Erhan. And so he is excavating Göbekli Tepe, which is, if you don't know about it, a very famous ancient civilization site that has been, it's still being uncovered now. But it's a Neolithic archaeological site in southeastern Anatolia in Turkey, dated with the pre-pottery Neolithic between circa 9,500 and 8,000 BCE. So it's known for having the oldest monoliths found that humans have erected and put up. And it's famous because there are these different groups of circular rings of these huge T-shaped stones, and they have carvings in them of like writing and animals. And they were all under the earth and were buried for such a really long time. So they were uncovered in relatively recent years. Like it was discovered in 1963, actually, and started being excavated in 1995 and is still being excavated. So the main archaeologists, so sorry, are Klaus Schmidt, Nekmi Karul, and Lee Clare. So it's pretty well preserved. It's a big deal in Western Asia, here in Turkey. And I've been to Turkey, actually, when I went on a Mediterranean cruise with my family, and it does have that ancient feel about it. I really like the Mediterranean and Turkey, that area. So anyway, back to the show. We're talking about Erhan. He's excavating Göbekli Tepe, and his father did as well. And so he's like carrying on the family work, and he finds something unusual. And it is that same symbol Atiye has been drawing. And Erhan and Atiye's paths cross, and they go on this sort of adventure together, which can be compared to Indiana Jones, and it can be looked at as a reincarnation and parallel life love story. It's magical. It's a fantasy show. And it does play with the fact of other dimensions and parallel worlds as well. In one part, Atiye sees her sister, who the character Sansu, and in the world without Atiye, Sansu is now Edith, I think, or Elif. Elif is her name. And so you get to see how the characters are different without other characters in certain worlds. And I love that it goes back to this like ancient sense of being at one with the earth and connecting through Atiye's grandmother, who is like a shaman, a holy woman, a gypsy, a magician of sorts. So she's very magical. And I love her grandma, actually. She's one of my favorites in the show. Basically, though, in this story, Göbekli Tepe has these magical tunnels underneath it, these caves that lead to these undiscovered crystals. They're like purple, glowing stones. And they have magical properties and kind of create a portal effect. And this isn't too out there. I mean, I love this kind of stuff. Like, I love ancient sites. You know, this might remind you of Dark or Outlander, which I'll probably talk about in other episodes, because I love those as well. But it's also like Ancient Aliens, which I love, as nerdy as I am. I love that kind of stuff. And I love to think about Atlantis and Lemuria and humanity's past being possibly way more advanced than ours, technologically, spiritually, and different lifestyles, you know, different ways of living. And this show, it does touch on that, like that yes, there's always been like dark and light forces, and also there's always been a knowing within each person through their own intuition, through the third eye. You don't even need to travel somewhere physically. This show does touch upon those deep truths of being a multi-dimensional being and being able to travel energetically and find information that way. It's possible. There's also so many amazing things. There's one point where Atiye gets stuck under the site. She's underground, and she thinks she's going to be buried alive, and while she's there she faces her darkness. It's shadow work. It's these dark memories with ozone and other areas of her life that she didn't want to look at. And it's like when she's under there, the awareness comes where she can't not feel it anymore, and she's able to heal it and come into her power, come into her knowing. And then later on, there's like this understanding that there is reincarnation, and the certain star mark is on people's bodies and are reincarnated with this sort of lineage and this gift. And I love that concept. And it even goes into Egyptian mythology with the Eye of Horus at the end. So there's a lot of amazing stuff for anyone that loves spirituality and loves fantasy. This is a great show. I so highly recommend. I love a lot of foreign stuff, and I found it all to be, I don't even know how to explain it, just, yeah, really amazingly well done. Very, very well done. And anywho, the acting was good. The directing was good. I love the sets. I love the pacing in most of it. Is like I said, it feels like there's a lot of love in all of it. And you even get to empathize with the villains somewhat and understand their side. And then you see different versions of the villains. So there's a lot of cool playing that they do with this series. The acting, my goodness gracious. I really love it. Erhan is great. Atiye is great. The actors. But the one that really blew my mind was the sister, Sansu Elif, Melissa, if I can say her name right, Melissa Senolson. Oh my gosh. She was a powerhouse, and I just was inspired every scene I watched her act in. I really thought she was really good. And so this show, it can go into this deep place within the viewer of, oh my gosh, what if I'm like Atiye? What if I have these other lives and I'm still carrying out these missions from these other lives, these purposes, right? And I'm able to fulfill them in this life. I love that. And I've had my own experiences with that, and I know many other people have as well. There's a lot of people that feel and know in their bones that they were priests and priestesses in Atlantis and ancient Egypt and other places. Me personally, I am Lemurian. I have a very Lemurian energy about me, which is, I think, why I was attracted to the West Coast, California, because this is said to be part of Lemuria that didn't go underwater. And there are also people that do remember coming into their lives. One I love to listen to is Matthias De Stefano, but there are other people I've been watching on YouTube as well that like remember things from parallel and past lives, like their whole life from when they were young. They remember that, and they carry that information with them into this life, and they already have a sense of knowing and purpose from when they were young. They might have tried to stuff it, but it usually comes back, that calling, you know. For me, though, I definitely had a full veil of forgetfulness when I was incarnated in this life, and I didn't awaken and then uncover a lot of these parallel past life memories until I was an adult. Yeah. So I was in my 20s when I really got into this and started to understand that, and really was like, oh yeah, okay, this all makes more sense. I'm Lemurian. So I don't know, I'm hoping that those listening to this, that you may, by watching the show, get a bit curious and start to see if you're drawn to certain symbols and where those symbols may have originated in ancient civilizations, or if you're attracted to certain places. That's another thing. Some people's past parallel life memories come back when they visit somewhere. I remember reading Sylvia Browne, who was one of the authors that helped awaken me way back in the day when my father passed away, and I was getting out of Christianity beliefs and looking elsewhere. She said that when she visited Kenya, then she had a memory of when she was living there. So that can also happen. Sacred sites can awaken these memories, and they are also powerhouse energy vortexes on grid lines, ley lines on the earth that have magnetic anomalies or piezoelectric effects from quartz in the granite, and etc. That it's different for each site. But this isn't just woo-woo stuff. This is scientific. You can measure electrical and magnetic differences in a lot of sacred sites, and they can be portals to help remember or even download this information from higher realms or from other lives. So I believe this anyway. I think this stuff is fascinating. If you're listening to this, I hope you think this is fascinating too. Anywho, I think that this show brings up a lot of that richness of what is sad, that, humanity has amnesia, that we don't actually know our past. A lot of it has been lost. The burning of Alexandria, the library, and there's been a lot that hasn't just been recorded, so we don't actually know a lot about our history. And this also helps, I think, viewers to realize that each and every person is special and has a history. I mean, those listening, of course, you don't have to believe in reincarnation. I'm not telling you what to believe. I believe in it, though, and I started to believe in it after my father passed away, and I started reading the Sylvia Browne books and spiritually awakening. I just felt it in my bones, like, oh, this makes so much sense. Now this is truth. We don't just have one life to either go to heaven or hell and get it right or wrong. It's like, oh, Earth is a school. It's a learning ground. We can carry karmic, or whatever you want to call it, lessons and missions from life to life. And say we were a robber in one life, then we experience being robbed in another life, if we so choose to understand the different perspective, and in that way balance out our energy. But I believe that we're not told where to go or how to live or who to become. I think life is a balance of destiny and free will, as I have mentioned before. It's not just all fated. There are options and blueprints, but our human free will chooses which one from a certain option or number of options. But I believe that when we reincarnate, we do choose, our parents, how we're going to be born, when we will spiritually awaken or not, and how most likely that would happen, the different options of that, and the work that we want to do, even if we're doing it unknowingly. Like, I've also read that in different spiritual books, because I'm a nerd, especially on the Kindle. I read a lot of like alien channeled books. I love that kind of stuff. I'm so nerdy. But there's a lot of information out there about, some people, they aren't really aware of all of their purposes or what they're doing when they walk into a room or meet someone or even just be themselves, but they are emitting a certain kind of energy, whether it's for the earth, for humanity, or just a certain frequency at this time of ascension. Everyone's doing something and is here for a reason and has chosen to be here for a reason or multiple reasons and bring something special. And we all have a special past and history and reasons why we're here, even if we're not aware of it or we choose not to be aware of it in this life. And it just makes sense to me, and I find it comforting. So this show has that deep soul connection with me. And I also love that it's not solely concentrated on the love story, but like most people, I love me a good romance, and this is a good one. It's adventurous, and like Erhan is like this detective, Indiana Jones, very wonderful character, and then you get to see another side of him later on in the series as another version of himself, but he's so honorable, and Atiye is so strong and fearless, and she'll trust her intuition. And I think these are wonderful role models, regardless of gender, but just in general, wonderful role models. And I love that there's a love story there, and that it's an ancient love story, and that they're kind of like this, like star-crossed lovers that find themselves in another life and another life and another life, and it's like that sense of you'll meet your soulmates, but you may not always end up like friends or a lover or whatever, but you'll at least cross paths in each life of some sorts, usually because we like to learn lessons with the same groups of people. I believe, usually, though we do introduce new people into the mix all the time. I think it's both, but how lovely that there is like an ancient romance, and it's carried through time and other lives and other bodies. It's just so beautiful. So I wanted to add that if you're curious about past lives, I say parallel lives too, not to confuse you, but because I believe all time is now, and past and future lives are all in the now. We just call them past to have an understanding chronologically from our Earth perspective of of how our human brains work. But if you're interested in it, like learning and experiencing that, there's hypnosis out there. I actually had one of my first experiences of seeing a past life with a YouTube, like 30-minute hypnosis meditation. It's a like past life regression hypnosis meditation. If you want to look that stuff up, it exists out there. Or you could just meditate and ask when you pray, and maybe you will open up your intuition and be shown it. Anyway, it's interesting because I've done it quite a few times now, this meditation, and different stuff will come up every time. I don't force whatever comes through. I just let it flow, and in the moment it doesn't quite make sense, and then afterwards I'm like, oh, that's why my mom appeared, and that's why this happened. Oh, okay, I understand. And so it relates to this life is what I'm trying to say right now. Whatever's shown to me helps me in the now moment in this life. So it's pretty cool. It's very helpful. And what is also neat about the regression hypnosis meditations is that even if this soul looks completely different in a different body, I know it's them. Like, I had one once where my mom looked completely different, but I knew my mom in that life was my mom in this life. And my ex-boyfriend was completely different gender, different race, everything, but I knew it was him in another life, the same soul. So it's like, you just have this innate knowing of who these other souls are if you do have a history with them in your current life. So, fascinating stuff. And I wanted to also add that I think there is a lot more with sacred sites on our earth. A lot of them are holy places that have been, there's a lot of energy put into them. So there are vortexes of sorts where I think it is possible, someone could be transported in a cave with crystals into another parallel life or dimension, or experience their past lives, or have a big shift. There's a lot that I think has been undiscovered, possibly even hidden from us. But, it's said that there used to be crystals on top of the pyramids in Egypt, and that they used to be places of download where people would go and use sound healing, and all these different initiations were done in these energetic powerhouses. I don't know, it's very interesting to me to think that energy is still flowing at those spaces, even if, it's not all set up to have like this network or grid, maybe like there was in the past in ancient civilizations, where possibly we did have a lot different technology and we kind of lost sight of it. So I think it's exciting to see what is going to keep being uncovered with these ancient sites. And it's fascinating to think about, to ponder about, to question, and also to feel that energy in those places. Being privileged enough to visit some, I love the energy of these big sacred sites. I would love to see Göbekli Tepe one day. I haven't, but I would love to. And I just wanted to say thank you for tuning in. I hope you have enjoyed this. And if you like fantasy and mysteries of ancient sites and civilizations and adventure, this show is for you. I hope you enjoyed this and that you'll come back again and listen to the next podcast. Talk to you then. Thank you. Bye-bye.